Welcome, everyone. I'd like to bring this regular board meeting for Paradise Recreation and Park District for Wednesday, April 10th, 2024 to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call?
Director Alma Green.
Here.
Director Mary Belfay.
Here.
Secretary Sue Rodwick.
Here.
Vice Chairperson Jen Goodland. Here. And Chairperson Robert Anderson.
Here. I'd like to welcome guests here and online. And we do have a sign-in sheet if you'd like to sign in. If there's anyone here that would like to speak on anything concerning an item that is not on tonight's agenda, please do so.
Good evening. My name is Mark Thorpe. I'm the Executive Director for the Gold Nugget Days Incorporated Gold Nugget Museums. Tonight, you're going to hear some update information and requests in general from Gold Nugget Days Incorporated in anticipation of a full agenda item in May or June. I'd like to go ahead and introduce our first speaker, Mr. Zach Connell.
Member of the board, my name is Zach Connell, and I'm a board member for the Gold Nugget Museum. I'm here today to be frank. The museum needs to be able to use the land originally leased them to fulfill its commitment to education and enrichment for youth here on the Ridge. I joined the board just last October and soon after was tasked with helping rebuild the school program for the museum. While doing this, we realized that the program, although still able to fulfill the California history requirements, is not at its full potential, and we are limited to the Depot Train Museum and the Yellowstone Kelly Trail. The program contains the following components and activities: home arts such as sewing and weaving, laundry and cooking, bread making, candle making, woodworking, and rope making, as well as others. Still, those are just a few. Unfortunately, because of the absence of the land, we cannot fully execute the program in its entirety because we simply cannot possess the facilities needed to do certain aspects of the program. This inherently affects the quality of education our kids receive, which is not right. Many people can attest to the success of the program, me being one of them, as I participated in the program in elementary school. The program also includes the biographies of several people who are relevant in the California Gold Rush and people who are major parts of Paradise's history. You may live on a road named after one of them. To close this out, I implore members of this board to provide a long-term lease to the museum sooner rather than later, as multiple community elements are affected by this. This should not be tabled for a later date, as the longer we wait, the more we deprive the community, and more importantly, our youth, of an essential element of education and enrichment for them to understand the importance of the California Gold Rush and how it affects them today. If members of the board have questions, please reach out to me via email at zackconnell05@gmail.com. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And that brings us. Oh, sorry.
Hi, good evening. I'm Lori Noble, former member of the board of directors for the Gold Nugget Museum. And my real focus is that history is something that we really need to keep track of, have it available to the public as we have more public move into Paradise in the future that have heard about the fire, but really don't know what happened and so on. We need to be able to remind them of the essential pieces as far as fire safety and so on. And I think that the other areas, certainly the educational components for the museum, have been covered. I would really like to see the museum being able to go back to the property. It is a lovely facility and it's going to be a real addition to the community. And I think that the details could be worked out with the board. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rena Ely. I'm a member of Enterprise Rancheria Estemoana Maidu Tribe here in Butte County. I can't stress how much I would love to see the school programs come back. Prior to the fire and during the fire, I was working with those programs. And at the time of the fire, we had the Maidu program where we teach our local history. And I can't stress how important it is to have that land and all the plans we have to move forward with that and build that program to teach the local history, the true history to the public schools that isn't really available and has never really been available until the Gold Nugget Museum created the Maidu program. And also, I'm also a board of directors of the Gold Nugget Museum. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Brian Gray on the Gold Nugget Museum Board. Just on a business level, we just need to know what our resources are going to be the next few years and where we're going to put our money and what we're going to do for improvements, just to know what we have. So right now we have the depot in the park. We have the museum property. It's the old transmission shop that we're currently renovating and making usable. And we have to know if we're going to have the old facility or not, so we know what to do with it. So thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Board of Recreation Department. This is not my first visit to the Museum Recreation Board. I was one of the original signers of the original lease. And after 50-some years, I figured we did a pretty good job. We kind of took care of it until we had a fire. Now, we're going to try and encourage you to give us a lease back for another 50 years so that it would be able to continue the history of the community and our people, because it's a local interest of the community. And if everybody's involved, you'll be able to appreciate what the last 50 years have accomplished. And when you start talking about 50 years, it goes by quick. I never dreamed I'd even come close to seeing this date again with the museum, but however, I'm still involved. And what increase to a 50-year lease sounds like a long time, but it really isn't. And what we're doing this evening is to encourage you to meet with us, work out the program that we need to know, because we have to know what the lease will be and the numbers so that we can move forward. There's many decisions that are being done today with the affects us, but with the key is what were we going to do with our living history, the education, and everything that has been perfected over the years, the community. So I'm here asking that you consider us putting this on the next month as be on the agenda. And then in the meantime, we'll go with Dan and we'll iron out some of these details that we need. So basically, we're asking to know how long a lease we can get so we can continue to keep improving the community. And this is one of the key plates of our community. I'll end with some people realize that paradise has always been paradise. Paradise is above the fog, below the snow. Now we have some of the most beautiful sunsets that you've ever seen. So we gained one. I thank you for your time. And if you ever have any questions about what happens in 50 years, be happy to explain it or happy to tell you. And I'm proud to be able to say, maybe I'll be able to sign a second lease for over 50 years, which would be 100 years. I'm shooting for 100. And I think I have a young man that's in the board right now that could probably take over the next 50 years, and he'd remember me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you all.
I just wanted to address a couple of things. One One is maybe Warren will put you in, pencil you in for the next lease time as well. That at least have 3 on the record there. The other thing is just, as per our discussion that we had late last year was the idea that we've honored the current lease. And so under the current lease, what is required is a written description of what you guys propose. And so that would allow us to respond because right now we have a lease that goes at least until I think 2027. And so that's what we need is a written set of points so we can assess how those changes might impact the lease going forward.
Yeah.
So I think that would be the first step is coming from you guys to us, and then we can respond.
This is what we were planning on. That's why because of this, April is a Gold Nugget Day celebration time. It is, what we need to do is we know what we want to do, and we just have to get it into wording and requests that you will agree with. We filled up until the fire, and then everything changed so much. The whole town, well, it's obvious the town has changed, but the bottom line is that the lease we've signed and agreed to has been a wonderful cooperation. And we'll see that information gets to you, Dan.
Just for representatives edification. As our Mr. Rogers showed, the current lease is not expired. It's still in effect. And so that's when staff. Quite frankly, I don't see a need for bringing this whole issue to the full board at our next board meeting, but rather, why don't you generate your written input and you give it to staff that our district manager and one of our standing committees will work with your organization to flesh that out in more detail. Because there's other factors maybe we need to discuss at that level that need to be really vetted really well before we go to the full board and we talk about an extended lease to, whatever period of length of time it's going to be. Just a suggestion.
No, that's exactly.
If I may.
Go ahead.
Mr. McGee, I want to make this real clear, and it's possible that this could make some movement to this. We have gone for 5 years, and for a reason we all are aware of, concerning insurance, concerning the other issues that precluded us from being able to be on the property. We have surviving monuments on that property, as well as a desire to actually reoccupy in some capacity. Dan and I have had some conversation about having bulleted items. I do believe, however, it's important that it comes to the board because we need your active participation in getting us back on that property. Now, if you want us to lead, that's fine. We'll go ahead and start the process of leading. And maybe I misunderstood you, but the idea basically is we need your help and support on this. And the fact that we would be leading this is somewhat misleading because there are requirements by PRPD that we're not aware of. So we want to be able to work those details out.
Please don't misunderstand. When I say as per our lease, there is a requirement in there that any changes to operation is a written requirement. It's not a verbal one. It could be the form of a letter, Mr. Thorpe. So it could be a letter to me that we can then see how we want to proceed. We're not asking whatsoever to initiate the agreement. We're just asking to know what you as a board, what are your intentions, and is there a unified take on it? Because, through some of our meetings, for example, there were a number of ideas shared with us, but we don't know as an organization which one Gold Nugget Museum would like to take. So we just would like clarification of that so we know how to move forward. Thank you.
Just for a point of interest, would each of you, would you like to have, want a copy of the original lease? You have it, okay, because I was ready to provide them for if you didn't have one. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, 2 of my sons did the field trip to Gold Nugget, and I was a parent that helped out, and it was great for the kids.
I'll be calling you.
All right, let's any more public comment online? All right, thank you. That moves us on to the consent agenda. Do we have any issues?
I'm gonna pull item 3.1, please.
Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I motion to approve the consent agenda minus item 3.1.
Second.
Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call?
Director Alma Green. Director Mary Belfay.
Aye.
Secretary C. Rodwick.
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Jen Goodland.
Aye.
Chairperson Robert Anderson.
Aye.
Motion carries with 5 ayes.
You have a issue with 3.1?
Yeah, just item 6.1, when it comes to the Piranha swim pool agreement, I had accidentally wrote 2025 as the expiration date, and I meant to put 2024 instead of 2025, and then the next one ends in 2025. So there's just a date in the correction in the date.
Correction, that's saying, if you look at your copy, it's discussion of items. Which 13th, the motion I was motion to something is in February 14th and not March 13th. And in the vision, it shows it's Sunday, March 13th. In that motion, it should not be, it should be February.
Okay, I thought I corrected that, or so at the March 13th meeting, we approved the regular meeting minutes of February 14th.
Well, the copy doesn't reflect that we had in our packet.
Oh, okay. Then that as well, the new one does reflect it.
Did you notice that in your hard copies?
I noticed it now.
Oh, okay. So those are the two corrections. Mr. Chairman, those two corrections, then we will approve item 3.1 is corrected. Second.
Madam Clerk, roll call?
Director Alma Green.
Aye.
Director Mary Belfay.
Aye.
Secretary C. Rodwick.
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Jen Goodland.
Aye.
Chairperson Robert Anderson.
Aye.
Motion carries with 5 ayes.
That brings us to committee reports. Item 4.1, Finance Committee.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. As the chair of the Finance Committee, myself and Steve Roderick met with the staff and we discussed this and reviewed the general staff, the strategic plan, the draft strategic plan. You have minutes reflect on these topics that we discussed at committee level. We also looked at the preliminary budget for fiscal year 24-25. We made a few suggested edits for staff to entertain on that budget. We were given a verbal update on the status of the 2021-22 pending audit. And apparently we're grateful to receive that update, and I see we have that in our packet tonight. So, and then last but not least, our district accountant, Catherine Norfield, explained the process of how she posts income and so forth, which was very enlightening for us as committee members. But that's pretty much it, right, Steve? I believe.
Yeah, that covers it.
All right, that brings us to Personnel Committee.
Myself, Mary Belfay, and staff met and we discussed several items, one being the new sick leave, which is now the law requires 40 hours of sick leave and how to best implement that. And we agreed that the supervisors would help take the lead for their staff on implementation. We also discussed wage and salary negotiation, which we're waiting for the study really to come back with more information before we move further on salary and wage changes. We also discussed the timeline of the district manager evaluation. And that should be that currently the board should have. Oh, okay. Or it's this month. It says April that the board will be receiving the evaluation for the district manager. So that will need to be completed. So we just evaluated the timeline, which was the same as last year. And then we also discussed the full-time employee health stipend, which is on the board agenda for tonight.
Thank you, Jen. And that brings us to Rec and Park Committee.
We did meet and we had a great discussion about the aquatic park rebuild and where to put doors and where to put bathrooms. And I didn't have the plan because I was meeting via Zoom, but anyway, there was a draft of the plan for the new aquatic building. And we discussed a lot of different things about it, even possibility of moving it closer to the actual pool entrance and just lots of different discussions. It all went good. And then we talked about 3 property donations from various Paradise folks and pros and cons, and came to just staff was making a decision. And anything else I missed?
We get to take a field trip this month to go look at those properties.
Oh, good.
You don't remember that we were going to pile into a van here, meet here and pile into a van?
I haven't got a
Go look at them.
calendar yet, so. We
And
did talk
I
about
think
that.
we were going to reschedule that because I think you said you had a conflict. So
Oh, okay.
at tonight, if we could have the committee members meet with Sarah to set up the date, and then we'll
Perfect.
put out the announcement.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
It's hard to do a field trip when you're doing Zoom.
It was actually a FaceTime call, I think. Anyway, it was a great meeting and lots on the horizon, possibilities for properties.
Thank you, Mary. And that brings us to old business. We're going to hold on 5.1.
You know, I think we can probably, I think it's the board's desire, but you know, we do know that some of the representatives were supposed to come at 6:30. So maybe we can delay those until after. Oh,
I just saw a bunch of hands go up.
thank you. Well, we
All
can
right.
get started then. Let's thank you.
Item 5.1, Centerville Recreation and Historical Association Agreement. Welcome.
I don't think it's, the light's not.
There it goes.
Okay. Walt Schaefer with the Covered Bridge Association will be joining us a little bit late. He's with the Enlow board and they just got finished, so he's rushing to get up here to be here for this meeting. So I'll talk very slowly. How's that? So I'd like to thank you and my board at the Centerville Recreation and Historical Association would like to thank you for our continued partnership over the years, providing community outreach and programs in Butte Creek Canyon. I'm reporting out on the time period from July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. That's our last completed period of our agreement, and we're currently in the current agreement through June of 2024. But a lot of what I'm going to be talking about are things that we do on an annual basis, but we do have some new things this year. For this time period. So as far as community building activities, we had ice cream socials, popcorn, beverages and games nights, and 5 community potlucks. And this is an opportunity for the people in the canyon to get together, for neighbors to come together, get to know one another, and have a sense of community in our canyon. In addition, the Coleman Museum hosted a number of community members' collections. So different community members would bring in different collections, things like vintage clothing and photography and things like that. Under public service, each year in October, the CRHA facilitates a Canyon Cleanup Day. After a long summer of everybody recreating in the canyon and swimming, and we have a lot of trash to pick up every year. So and this last year I was out picking up trash, and I have to say I picked up $100 bill, if you can believe that. Talk about lucky. I did donate it to the museum, so I want you to know that. But that was pretty amazing. But we get the community together basically and have a day of picking up trash, and a lot of people participate in that. We usually have 30 to 50 people participating. And then afterwards, a free lunch is served up at the Centerville schoolhouse. In November of 2022, we hosted a community meeting for PRPD at the schoolhouse, where the staff was able to talk to Canyon residents about different ideas about things we could have do in the canyon. So that was one of the things we did in partnership. We've also, of course, having a museum, we want to promote a sense of the unique history and a sense of place in the canyon for residents. And the museum was actually built back in the 1970s, and part of the funds for that were the sales of a book called The Tailings of Butte Creek Canyon. And this book had become out of print, and it's really the history of our canyon in lots of colorful detail. And the book was upwards of $500 on the internet. So it was getting impossible for canyon residents, especially new canyon residents that didn't have one, to have one for their home. So as part of our work, we produced a brand new one that's really a great copy of the original. The original was hardbound. This is a softbound, but it holds together pretty well. And instead of $500, Canyon residents can now have this for $49. So it's something that we probably, I think we're running out of them already in the first printing. So we're really happy to have done that for our canyon. I do want to note too, as part of our work in history and with the canyon, that the Coleman Museum is regularly open 1 to 4 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays, staffed by volunteers, many from the canyon, but some from Durham and outside the canyon as well. The other event that we took place featuring the history of the canyon was the Explore Butte County's Museum Weekend. We featured our gold mining in the canyon. We had a special display for that and presentation, and that was well received. I think we had upwards of 150 people come for that event. And then on the community outreach and fundraising front, we regularly put out every other month a newsletter to the canyon and basically it's everyone up and down Centerville and Honey Run roads. Plus we have an email list of about 130 people. So some people get that online, and we put out the Centerville School Bell, which is our newsletter. And this has got basically topics of concern to the canyon. We usually feature elements of history in there, elements of the nature of the canyon, things like that. So it's all to, continue to have that sense of community in our canyon, and for people to know, when there are going to be events at the schoolhouse and things like that. Of course, our major fundraiser is coming up. It's the 49er Fair. We had a very successful 49er Fair that year. Back in 2000 and I guess it would have been 2003. We usually did feature food, local music, crafts, a plant sale, country store, silent auction, and gold panning for the kids. And that's always a big hit, of course, with the kids. Proceeds for that event, we brought in over $8,000, which helps us continue to operate. Basically, that pays for operations. We also had a holiday gift sale around Christmas time that brought in another additional $800 at that time. We have had many major expenses outside of normal operations, tree removal, to protect structures. We've actually had trees that were overhanging structures that were about to give way, and we were able to get those out of the way. With recent activities in Chico, where one of the museums was robbed, we've been very concerned about museum security. So we've been working on that, spending some money there, and also in building maintenance, of course. Structures that are over 100 years old, they do need their maintenance. And our schoolhouse was built in 1894. So we are experiencing challenges in obtaining affordable insurance. Even under the California Fair Plan, our insurance has tripled. And we currently, although all of our caretaker's cottage and the school itself is insured, the museum is not insured. So we are struggling with that issue. So we're hoping that we can, I talked a little bit to Dan about that, but I'm hoping that maybe we can talk with staff about maybe there's some way that we can have a partnership or collaborate through insurance that you might have as a larger organization, or there might be some way that we might be able to get some help there, because it's a big concern for us based on where we are. I mean, we were only saved by Canyon residents that were in the canyon, during the fire, and they cut a fire line around us. So we were saved. But again, we would like to convey our thanks. My board would like to convey our thanks for our continued partnership. We'd like to invite you to come to the Coleman Museum and One Room Schoolhouse for a curated visit. And also, of course, we'd like to invite you to come to the 49er Fair. That's June 2nd. And I'm sure Walt will invite you to the pancake breakfast on the same day. And we always do that in partnership with our Covered Bridge partners there. So can I answer any questions?
I have a few questions. Mr. Calhoun.
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
I should have.
Introduce yourself. I don't see you. Sorry.
You're welcome.
Apologize for that. Excellent verbal presentation. I appreciate that. For our memorandum of understanding, is there going to be a written report submitted from Centerville Recreation?
Yes, I have submitted that to staff just a few days ago. So
okay, so staff will eventually share that with us, right?
Yeah, there are photocopies out there, and we can share that via email as well.
Okay.
I think it's worthwhile just for our records. What we'll do is we'll put that in our next packet too. So there's kind of a public record.
So the public can see it too.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. The other thing I wanted to ask you was, during that time period, did our district designate a liaison to your organization, a liaison person?
So unfortunately, I was not with the board at that time. I was only a docent during that time period.
Right.
And so I'm not sure, but I believe our president was in contact with Dan on that.
So Dan was probably our liaison.
Is our primary.
It's just that it's required for the agreement. And
yes.
Oftentimes we as board members, we don't hear the outcome of that until the annual presentation, more often than not. But it's a minor point. One thing I'd just like to share an observation. It's been almost 4 years now since we last modified the agreement in terms of financial contribution from the district to your organization, which is a fine organization. You have an outstanding history. I'd just like to suggest that the board maybe think about this particular agreement, since it's been 4 years, that possibly we raise the ante a bit. Not, it's $5,000 a year and 4 installments. Perhaps I think we can afford maybe $6,000 as a contribution, perhaps for the next 4 years. Just something like that. Just a minor suggestion. I don't know what the outcome will be with the full board, but it's just something I want us to ponder tonight.
To that point, this is the only funding that we can count on, other than ourselves, going out and doing fundraising ourselves.
Right.
And so it is greatly appreciated. And has held us through in the past, and especially through times of the campfire and things like that. So I would absolutely welcome the suggestion.
Well, it's my suggestion. I don't know what the full board will do with that or our staffs. I'm hearing staff unexpectedly here.
I
So,
understand.
and then the other thing, your annual event in June is a big success. I personally have attended the last couple of years, not only that, but the pancake breakfast as well. And I guess my question is, did any of our district staff participate in the annual event in June during that particular year?
Again, I was a docent at that time. I'm not, and I wasn't,
Okay.
but maybe Dan can.
Dan might know.
Yeah, and I can't remember if it was out of event or something else. I know that there were some challenges related to parking.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we did supply our van.
Well, the van.
I think that's come up again this year, and the person that's coordinating the fair has asked for that service again, because parking is we have
Absolutely
just a 2-lane road, and so we park people way down, and then they have to come up to the fair, and there's of course people with
Right.
disabilities and things like
So
that.
Dan, thank you for reminding me. Contribute the van in that particular event day, and that's a good shuttle service because parking was a very hazardous situation down there in the canyon.
Yes.
One other thing I was going to remind board members that we've been last few years participating in the cleanup days and bringing some of our staff and volunteers that may want to go down and help. Now that we know that there's $100 bill hidden somewhere in the trash, that may be a great opportunity to recruit more volunteers.
And then one last suggestion, this is more for staff, not you, sir, but I think our board is long overdue to come down and have a board meeting in the canyon, preferably at the schoolhouse, which is under your jurisdiction as Senator Recreation Association, as well as the Higher Uncovered Bridge folks. So that's just another suggestion, just something to ponder.
We would welcome that. Our only our minor challenge, which I think you can get over with, but with online presence would be our internet is cell phone based down there, but it should be good enough for Zoom, I would think. Yeah. Great. Well, thank you very much.
There's been talk about doing a meeting there because we were actually just talking about the year we did it in November. Well, it was just like a public input meeting, but we're trying to communicate that, what's not communicate. No, we're trying to put that together. And we actually have a leadership meeting. Yeah. Thank you. Gosh,
with board availability, if beforehand, we might be able to give a curated view of the schoolhouse and museum beforehand. So that might go in hand in hand.
Yeah, I think Sarah was we can have a number of things that we have obligation and certain things that need to be here or up in Magalia. I think in September we were planning on meeting. So one of those possibly October meeting, we're going to reach out and try and line that up. And docent-led tour would be fantastic. So
Great.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Great. Thank you very much.
Question.
Yes.
There you go. The Centerville Recreation newsletter. Are you still doing that?
Yeah, the school bell.
School bell.
Yeah, it's the Centerville School Bell goes out bi-monthly and features all of the everything that's coming up in the canyon, along with areas of interest to canyon residents, and then things like canyon history, wildlife, weather reports, all these kinds of.
I understand what's in it. It's because we used to get it.
Oh, okay.
And so with our board packets when we got them out. So if you can either get my email address from staff, but I would love to start receiving them again.
Yeah, we're just putting one out, and I'll put you on our mailing list, and you'll get the online version.
And the other thing is, where do you get the books?
The books are available at the museum. Unfortunately, we don't have a mail order service or anything, but if you come for the 49er fair, you can pick up a book.
Okay. It's not just recently at the museum Sunday afternoon, and the gentleman there, I think he said he was from Durham or far away, and he comes up once a month to be the docent, but he did an amazing job. And that's the third time I've had been to that museum with a tour, but there was a beautiful display of the canyon people that surrounded the museum at the fire, and it was just a really, really their work, and it was very moving just to stand and look at the display. So I just got kind of, anyway, it was great.
Just this last year, we had our, of course, along with Paradise, we had our 5-year anniversary, and it was quite moving. And people, I wasn't expecting that many people to come out for it. It was,
It was great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
By the way, Tim, I'm glad Mary brought that up. We used to, prior to campfire, we were on the mailing list for that school bell. So if we could return to that, Sarah can distribute it to our.
absolutely have that.
Thank you.
Have that on your list, and it'll come via email. It's also available right now as well on our website, colemanmuseum.org. But I will put you on the mailing list, so you'll get an online copy. Great.
And one more thing. Thank you so much. I was very enlightened by so much that you shared, and I appreciate hearing all that you're doing. I myself and my family have enjoyed many hours down in the canyon. We bring visitors. I did as a child, and I just really appreciate the upkeep and what you're doing there. And this question might be more toward Dan and staff. I don't know with that neighborhood grant, if any of those funds can be directed, because you do a lot of community get-togethers, and I know that was part of that. And I don't know the ins and outs of that grant particularly, but I don't know.
Thanks for bringing that up. That is, we'll give you a preview on it. So we're very fortunate in getting this grant from California volunteers. And the idea is to have events and connections with neighborhoods. And we identified Butte Creek Canyon as a neighborhood. So that we know that we will have some programs and outreach with that. We also know we need to have help with groups, which will give some opportunity for funding events. It could be anything from, like some of the events you guys would do in the past, a movie night or some sort of get together there. We have great movie equipment now for outdoor showings, for example. And so this would help pay for that and various things that would help get neighbors out and connected. So we'll be talking to you shortly. By the way, Kristen in the back there, wave, Kristen. Yeah. Okay. So she's going to be orchestrating a lot of that program. So thanks for bringing that up.
Grant or not, we would take you up on a movie night. That would be fantastic. Thank you.
True. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I agree with Al. I think we should bump it up a little, and we haven't in 4 years, and we haven't had a meeting down there in a long time.
Just one other thing to that, Tim had mentioned that the conversation we started with insurance. So I think there's some further discussions we'll have with that, and that might require additional action or future action from the board, but we'll kind of keep you posted on that.
Was there anyone else that wanted to speak? Do we have a motion? Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair. I'd be happy to make a motion. I move that the board approve the funding agreement with the Centerville Recreation and Historical Association for July 1st, 2024 through and including June 30th, 2026. With a slight modification in the financial contribution annually in 4 installments be $6,000 rather than $5,000.
I'll second that.
Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call?
Director Alma Graham. Director Mary Belfay. Aye. Secretary Sue Roderick.
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Jen Goodwin. Aye. And Chairperson Robert Anderson.
Aye.
Motion carries with 5 ayes.
Great presentation. That brings us to item 5.2, Honey Run Covered Bridge Association Agreement.
Thank you for this invitation to return for our annual report and discussion. I apologize for being a few minutes late. I was in another meeting and got here flying up the freeway. Glad I didn't see any red lights. So I want to say how grateful I am and we are, Honey Run Covered Bridge Association, with your support over the years, both financially and program wise discussions. It's been a stabilizing influence for us. This has been a troubling time, as you know. We lost the covered bridge, but with a combination of donations and Fire Victim Trust, we're ready to go on the rebuild. And some of you may know the details, I'm not sure, but just for a few brief moments, I was in a bi-weekly Zoom with 10 other people today, contractors, engineers, our project manager, who's a pro bono professor at Chico State Construction Management. So if I can just tell you a little bit about where we are with this schedule. In June, we will see delivered the lumber for the decking and the trusses. It's being now treated and shaped at a company up near Portland in Oregon. And then in June, all those pieces will be put together. And then in July, a large crane will arrive. That'll be very dramatic. I saw pictures of it today for the first time. It's a 500-ton crane, whatever that means. And the pieces are going to be put together in the 3 sections of the bridge, and they then will be lifted out over the river onto the abutments and the columns. And then we have an RFP out right now for phase 3, which will be the siding and roofing. And we anticipate that being completed in the fall. So our timeline, we have a week-by-week timeline. And if all goes well, we hope to have the covered bridge rebuilt by the end of this calendar year. So thank you. It's been a long journey and lots of ups and downs, but we're incredibly grateful. We're incredibly grateful to our law firm in San Francisco, who are very strong advocates for us with the Fire Victim Trust, and it has all turned out well. So we're very optimistic. In the meanwhile, we haven't done a whole lot of program work or other activities during recent months. We have a live-in caretaker, as you know, and she's been doing a great job maintaining the grounds and welcoming people. But we're kind of in a transition time as an organization because we kind of don't know what the future is going to be with respect to programs and activities. One thing I might mention that affects this point is that we had a difficult meeting with a state fire marshal about fire protection of the bridge moving forward. And we were told that we had these options. We could hold events on the park in the bridge only if we put a plywood wall down each side with fireproof plywood, plus a fire sprinkler system with a big tank up on the bank on the other side, which would cost somewhere in the area of $250,000 or $300,000. The other option is that we would agree not to hold events on the bridge itself. And we decided as a board, we just could not fathom a dark tunnel on that bridge. So we had to make a decision that, at least for the time being, we're going to be prevented from holding things like the pancake breakfast and weddings on the bridge. We're hopeful moving forward that we can get a modification to that ruling. It was very complicated. You know, we had to fit the bridge into particular categories of the wildflower, the wildland urban interface. You know, there are different categories of buildings, and that we fit into one of those categories. So those were the options we faced, and so what's going to happen down the road? You know, we could have weddings right at the edge of the bridge. And you know, and we might do that. We're not sure. In the meanwhile, we're moving forward, and we are going to have the pancake breakfast. We just made a decision within the past couple of weeks. We had thought that the materials were going to arrive right at the same time as the pancake breakfast first weekend in June. We thought the fencing would go up in late May, but now it turns out that the material is going to arrive after June 2nd. It'll arrive the week of June 10th. So we are going to be able to have the pancake breakfast. So we're really happy about that. So that's kind of and then moving kind of longer term, you know, we have the insurance situation. For us to get fire insurance for the bridge, it would be impossible. It would be far beyond what we can afford. We don't even know about property insurance. You know, we do have liability insurance, but we're kind of looking down the road. What are we going to do with the bridge? And we've had discussions about the possibility of entering into a partnership with Paradise Park and Recreation District. Might you take over the bridge, the ownership down the road, or might we engage in a lease of some kind? Those are questions that we'll be addressing here during this next year. We've had discussions with Dan about the various options. In the meanwhile, as a minimum, we do hope that we can work with Dan and your staff on some program development and park development once the bridge is done. So I'm at a minimum, I think we will be able to partnership in that way. So that's kind of an overview of where we are and where we're headed. And we really appreciate your support. We appreciate working with you, Dan, with the meetings we've had in the Canyon. And I'm open to any questions you might have.
I have a question. You were just talking about the weekly timings and the cranes coming and all those activities that are happening to build that bridge. I don't know if you're familiar with Ev Duran. He's a filmmaker. He lives in Chico now, but he's from Paradise and worked in the LA area. But there is some kind of film happening and he's working with Explore Butte County, and Jen might know a little bit more about it. But it's about things that are going on in town, and staff can get you his contact number, or I could, but documenting that, as you know, that's all historical stuff. So I don't know exactly what's going on with this film. Do you know anything about it? No, Jen doesn't either. But anyway, I could share with him what's going on down there, and maybe he could get a hold of you.
Great, I appreciate that. We have some options for documentation of the build. It's going to be quite dramatic, and we welcome names and companies right now who might do this with us.
Okay, and I hope at the end of this year, when this is all done, you take yourself on an R&R vacation to New Zealand or somewhere.
Yeah, thank you.
Much needed vacation.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
I've got a question. I know prior to the campfire, although it wasn't a road bridge, it was still technically in the county bridge inventory. And that's how the county got their FEMA settlement that they kept. Is this new iteration of the bridge going to be in the county bridge inventory, or has the county washed their hands of this new structure?
The county has washed their hands. In October 2020, the Board of Supervisors transferred the ownership of the bridge to our association. And that's the way and I don't think there's ever a likelihood of it going back to the county.
I was going to say, maybe you can have them insure it since they got the money from the first one. I don't know.
Well, yeah, but I think that
Spouting off.
you probably followed what happened. You know, I went to the Board of Supervisors to see if they would give us a forgivable loan in case we didn't get the Fire Victim Trust loan. But they were told by the federal government, if you use that's Butte County settlement money for a nonprofit like ours, it's going to jeopardize other federal money. So the board pulled back from it, Board of Supervisors. So I don't think it's likely at all. There were no discussions about it going back to the county. But well, did you want to share tonight that I think we have fundraising golf tournament? Is that correct? Yeah, yes, just for the attendance, there might be golfers out there, I don't know, but. Yes, thank you. June 8th, I believe, right? June 8th, yeah, that's correct, yeah. And I might say that, you know, it costs us about $50,000 to manage the park. And the revenues from this golf tournament will help with that. We have a live-in caretaker, we have insurance, we have, you know, you help us with insurance, but we have a lot of other expenses. So, yeah, thanks for mentioning that. Other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do we have any public comment?
You do. I would just like some clarifications. I believe that when the county transferred ownership of the right of way to the association, it was sort of contingent on the bridge being built. So I just wanted to clarify that we're going to be under the timeline, so the association will retain that ownership. And also in the discussions regarding the potential forgivable loan, it was mentioned that the owner on the east side of the bridge was willing to give the association a landing contingent that they actually rebuilt the bridge. So assuming that's actually going to happen in year 2024, we'd like to hear confirmation that land on the east side will be available. Thanks. Please do.
Thank you for raising that. The landowners on the other side own, you know, they used to own all the way from above the new bridge all the way down Lower Skyway, the Alm Trust. And they still own 600 some acres on the other side, including the land right on the other side of the bridge. And so they have indicated to us that they're eager to donate to us either with an enduring lease or transfer of ownership, about 1.1 acres between the covered bridge and the fire station and down to the creek to expand our park on the other side. So we're working with them, and I think that's likely to happen, and that would be really nice. It would be accessible only through the bridge, not through the fire station side. But it would be a really nice, it's a beautiful piece of land, and so that's on our radar. Okay,
That's great. Any more questions?
I have a question for staff, Mr. Landry. To association and
We haven't heard anything in position to it. Yeah, it's essentially very similar to the past one that we had done a couple of years ago. I would point out that we do have another arrangement to provide kind of technical services and support too. And we've had good conversations, and Walt's been very communicative when there's things that come up that we might be able to help with or provide some ideas or long-term discussions. So I think there's more will happen out of that effort too over time.
Can I suggest whoever makes a motion that we bump it up to 6,000?
Please the agreement of the Highland County Beach Association for another 2-year term, commencing July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2026, with an amendment to the agreement, changing the annual contribution from 5,000 to 6,000.
I'll second.
Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call?
Director Alma Green, Director Mary Belfay, Secretary Steve Rodwick,
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Jen Goodlin, and Chairperson Robert Anderson.
Aye.
Motion carries with 5 ayes.
Yes, thank you. That brings us to new business. Item 6.1. Dan?
Yeah, I'll start. I'll let Christie finish up some details, but basically this is it pointed out from our personnel committee review that we had a cost increase on our health insurance stipend and or on what was required from health insurance. And so that kicked into effect January 1st. We had a discussion at our board committee meeting and had some various discussions. In the past, the districts maintained a stipend or pay for the least expensive health insurance option. And that's now increased to $914.82 a month. It's a over 10% increase. And Christy can go through some of the details on that.
Hi, good evening, directors. Yep. So this year, every October, we're notified of the upcoming changes to the health insurance premium rates and any plan changes that we're typically notified of that at the end of September, because then we have October to make any plan changes. People that hadn't been involved in the plan before but qualify may opt in. Some folks have opted out and gone to the California Fair Plan just because it keeps escalating. This year, the pricing or the percentage increase was only 10.89, which is down from 17.7 the year before. So that's good news. But it's still increasing. So it's a pretty significant increase. And we were hoping to approach the board and seek an adjustment to the current health stipend, which is $825, which the board raised last year when effective July 1st. But that again left us with 6 months of discrepancy, after that 17.7% increase. So staff is approaching the board to seek an increase in the health stipend to meet the lowest cost premium, and then make it retroactive to January 1st. So there is the full recommendation at the bottom of page 40, and as part of the staff report, the other ones kind of read, as outlined. So I think that's the one that staff is seeking. But I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you guys may have.
Help refresh my memory, please. The notification comes in October, the year that there's going to be a change beginning January 1.
Correct.
And it came to the committee in like March. And it has to go back to, did I miss? I mean, why didn't the personnel committee get it in November, December?
It was just staff oversight. So yeah, we just,
all right.
When that came through, I think the idea in the past, these have been typically carried forth on like the wage and salary negotiations. And so that's been on that cycle.
Okay.
When this kind of came up, because it is significant for staff, when we had some internal discussions and it came up again with the wage and salary discussions, it was my recommendation that we go as if it was retroactive. Because I think next cycle, so this happens, it's kind of more conditioned on staff to say, yes, we need to bring it back to the board for action, potential action and consideration more in line with the notification. So hope that answers it.
Thank
Less
you.
oversight
Thank you.
than just not being familiar with the process, that it didn't have to be part of the wage and staff negotiations process. Yeah. So there had been some discussion about changing it to be automatically aligned with whatever the lowest price premium was and changing the language. And I think that's what brought on the discussion of like, oh, we'll just, present it to the board at the time you're notified so that any corrective action, if it's adopted and supported by the board, would then take effect before, when the plan changes. But that could then, place some kind of peril on the district if it's automatic, and our budget doesn't support, whatever kind of cost escalation may exist in the future, that's not fiscally responsible. So instead, it was suggested that we take this approach in approaching the board. Any other questions?
Thanks, Christie.
You're welcome.
Stop about that. The personnel committee was approached with this in March, and the recommendation as a committee is that we endorse this tonight as a full board. Is that correct? Okay. I'm not thinking about that. And then some of the history. There's always historical part of wages and salary benefits negotiations as an upcoming fiscal year, but at the same time, we've always known that the insurance health providers always notified us as a participant agency in the month of October what's going to happen per calendar year. So I agree, we shouldn't make a lot of monitoring, but I think for now we exclude this particular benefit from the wages and benefits negotiations and only just work on wages for the most part budgetarily, and until we get notification from the health insurance providers, and automatically staff will take that to the personnel committee, vet it and run it to the full board if necessary. But never lock them in for it's automatic, because changes occur. We may have some in the unforeseeable future, we may have other options for health insurance providers. We just don't know that. So that's my suggestion. But anyway, Mr. Chair, let's see what we get from the audience tonight on this.
Now, there's no negotiation process. They just tell you what it's going to be raised.
Yeah, if you give your own personal health premiums or insurance premiums, they give you a notice, and then that just kicks in. So there's no.
We're too small to get any.
What's that?
We're too small to get any negotiations, because I know my union right now is in a negotiation with Kaiser, and they're going tooth and nail on.
Yeah,
I really wanted to raise it over 20%.
Oh. And when we've done some low comparisons and talking with other folks, and it definitely has gone up, or is going up as much as that. But one of the things that we're going to look at this next year is looking at shopping around a little bit. But I'm not hopeful that we're going to have any luck with that. But yeah, there's just not that much buying power, I guess, we have as a small district.
Was there any public comment?
I wasn't planning to comment on the side with this recent discussion. The question is, are the other recreation park districts in California in a similar situation? And could you work together with a labor union to have more bargaining power with the providers?
So our insurance is through CalPERS. So it's CalPERS. It's practically every agency and district in the state that has CalPERS has that as one of the best bargains. I won't say bargains, but it's principally their insurance, and it is costed for government. So there is kind of that sort of leverage. It doesn't seem to go that far, but in hearing 20%, I guess there's something on that. We were lucky in several years in having very flat premiums. In fact, I think one year it might have gone down just slightly. So, I think there's just some real cost increases going across the board for, everything inflationarily related. So this seems to be in line with that.
If it was on the comment, what you just showed, if you saw I don't know if I saw it on email or Facebook, but one of the board members on PERS, a district employee board member, is going to conduct a workshop online about the CalPERS benefits program. And I think it's going to be God, I want to say it's either May or June. I'll have to find that for you. It might be worthwhile for our staff to look at that and see if there's going to be future options that this presenter may or may not share for us to consider in the distant future.
I looked over at Catherine and she kind of gave a knowing nod. So I think she's aware of it. And anything with CalPERS, we've been trying to pay a lot of attention to because it does impact the district.
Any more questions?
Are we aware, are there incentive programs or health programs that we can engage in here? That provide metrics that show that we're a healthier organization than another that could then potentially decrease our, see where I'm going with that?
Yeah. Actually through Capri, there's a number of things that have come up. That's our overall insurer. They're coming out from the standpoint kind of workers' comp and retention and, work day, those types of things. But I think it has occurred to me over the next few years. It's going to be really important for us to be a model for good health and taking care of employees and all that. And I think that's probably going to be some of the efforts when we're shopping around a little bit, that we're looking at some of those kind of programs and maybe even health incentives, kind of promote more wellness than, looking at from the health benefits standpoint. I don't think it makes any difference on the insurance side because they consider our class will be all CalPERS agencies that have employees in that. So I don't think there's a good driver discount, so to speak, on it. But I think it's the right thing for us to look into from a staff standpoint. So there may be some discussions on that standpoint, Scott, we should have in staff.
Can we get a motion?
I'll make a motion that the board approve the increased healthcare stipend for all full-time employees to match the lowest price premium cost of the 914.82 retroactive to January 1, 2024.
Second.
And I think it'd be really cool to become a model district for what you're just saying. Yeah, Al did.
Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call vote?
Director Alma Green, Director Mary Belfay,
Aye.
Secretary Steve Rodwick,
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Jen Goodland, Chairperson Robert Anderson.
Aye.
Motion carries with 5 ayes.
That brings us to item 6.2, 2024 strategic plan. Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On page 41, there's a small report, recaps some of the background on this, and then the succeeding pages have the actual strategic plan itself. Just a couple of touch points here that this stemmed from a 2019 retreat that we had, where we went out actually to Richardson Springs, and no, Scott, we did not stay on the ropes course during that. Although I think you were up there, right?
I was up there on that day, but I didn't work here.
Yeah, he was running a program out on the ropes course up there. Anyway, we covered a number of things and a very, I would say, influential meeting for us because there were a number of directions and strategic endeavors that came from that meeting. And yet we did have a report that followed up from it, but we kind of needed something that was kind of what I wanted to see is what's in the packet here, a strategic plan that had laid out not only some of the goals that were at the meeting, but kind of lay out a work plan. So that's kind of the bridge between what typically you have a strategic plan and then staff implements it, the organization implements it, and then you come back and you revisit it. But I want to have some of the items kind of tied in with SMART goals. So we can come back objectively and look at it annually and see how we're doing, kind of keep scoring that. Since that time, I think there have been identification of other needs too. So there's a section in there called foundational statements, basically some of the values of the organization. I think it kind of goes into more detail as far as what are things we value as an organization, and I think it helps staff and the public know explicitly what are we about. And then the other thing I think on this that I think is important is laying out a little bit of a process for us. So you'll notice a couple of things in the report talks about how we might measure this over time, scheduling a future retreat to relook at this. But I really wanted us to have kind of a baseline for board, staff, and public to kind of peek at and kind of help guide our work. It's been a slow process. It's seen a lot of eyeballs and different iterations, but we'd recommend adoption of this plan. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Would you give us, would you give us a reminder of what SMART is?
Oh, yes. A SMART is specific, measurable, attainable, R is relevant and time sensitive. So you'll notice there's a pattern on each of those. It says by a certain date, and then it will kind of express who's responsible where it can, if it's not an organization-wide goal. One thing that we've already adopted since this approach is almost all staff have SMART goals on their evaluations. And those SMART goals are really tied in. A lot of them are tied in with some of our strategic goals that are in here. So I think it's important that every member of the organization knows how they're fitting in, what they're contributing to. And it's just not this high level document that may not have some pertinence to them on a day-to-day, but we're translating it to them with their evaluation goals. You're welcome.
I'm curious to know what you spoke about in this plan document about these points of accomplishment of the various goals that I'm struggling with some of these. Well, on pages 50 through 50 there's like a number of things that are depicted with targeted dates, and I'm just wondering how my fellow board members felt about some of those dates. Some of these dates give me a heartache, but I don't know how the rest of you felt. Frankly, there's a lot of things listed in here that, when you stop and you sit back and you think about the level of staffing we have currently, the level of staffing we may or may not have in the next 2 to 3, 4 years, and the number of things depicted in here to be accomplished, that's a lot. And I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, I'm seeking input from my fellow board members. What was your initial reaction when you read all this in terms of dates? Did you make input, suggest changes during the dates, or are you okay to live with that? I guess staff is telling us we'll adopt this tonight, then you want to review it on an annual basis. Is that correct? So there's that opportunity to make changes if necessary annually.
Yeah, and actually, let me point out something too, is as part of the process, we're suggesting actually not annual, but on either a calendar year basis or a fiscal year basis. And I think for this first year, what we're talking about is really we're going from April, month 4, to basically December. So there's already a more truncated time period that we're looking at. We could certainly revisit these things then. And so, I think from a staff standpoint, it might be because that is a relatively short period of time that we're talking about. Let's see how it rolls. And then at the end of that period, or even next year, the following year, we could see if some of these need to be scaled back, we need to have fewer goals, or adjust the timeline accordingly. But I think we'll get a pretty good handle, over the next few months here to see how we're keeping score on it.
I envision this on spreadsheet with all the year headings and then everything listed in for that year, and kind of makes you a little anxious. But I like what you said about do these next 6 months, see where we're at, and I believe that some of these dates will probably need to be changed, but make it. I think they're lofty goals. Some of them might be, I thought might be done sooner, but you got to start somewhere, figure out where you are. And I think this is a really good way of, like you said, kind of organizing the staff in some kind of systematic, so everybody has the same picture and is on the same page and how it fits in with that particular department.
I know, Dr. Belfay, you're one of the few fans of spreadsheets for data, as I share that as well. I also see that other fields that would be available, that would be priority. And then I think importantly for our staff is assignments. So, that's not appropriate to have here, but we would actually have a person that may be taking the lead on that or doing a certain role. So that would be part of our, I think, internal tracking.
One comment I want to share, maybe this is just reflective of my long-standing tenure in this meeting and just an old person, but historically, we've never referred to prior master plans for the district as a master management plan. And I don't know where that terminology came from. Perhaps it came from staff. I don't have a problem with it. I'm just wondering how it came about. And the other thing historically we've never done, and correct me if I'm wrong, we've never, as far as the makeup of the internal structure of the district and the employees and the various functions of the district, we've never had departments. I don't know where this language is coming from in all these documents. I guess staff likes to use the term department. We don't have a parks department. We don't have a recreation department. We just have a district and we have staff with various categories of activities and oversight. But again, I don't have a problem with that. If that's what we want to do in the future, then the strategic plan should reflect that naturally, and so should other similar operations. I'm just sharing something as a historian on the board, that's all.
I can, some of the comments or some of the work plan items came from staff. And, in some cases, I too have some caution about us because we're not big enough to really have departments, but we do have functions and we do have, it's nice, we tend to say what the thing is, it's recreation and parks, but that sometimes it kind of begs what is that thing? What is that function? What is that unit? So, I think some staff will talk about parks department, even though it's not really a department per se, but open, like I said, some of these I just grabbed from what staff comments were. If there's a better synonym for that, we're open to it.
Not that big. We've never been that big historically as far as, but it's neither here nor there. Whatever the board wants to do is fine.
I just kind of thinking out loud here. Have we, after setting this up, have we kind of looked at what the town and county are doing with regard to their transportation study? I could see the town tearing up more road, and then that might be a good opportunity to dovetail with all that construction work with regard to the facilities at Moore Road. I'd hate to have them put out a nice clean road and have us dig it up again. So is there any kind of coordination implemented in here?
I think some of these items are, I won't say necessarily in here, we're trying to do as much as we can. And maybe the opportunity for like the master plan gives us a chance to kind of give us the opportunity for conversation with some of those organizations. Hey, we're planning on doing these improvements at this site, this time, town or county. Are there coordination issues? I think things are evolving so quickly. And I know that we've heard, like, for example, from the town manager on lots of questions. One of the biggest things they get are questions about their road plans and improvements and are they going to improve the roads and then tear it up for the sewer and so forth. And they've given a lot of thought to that, and yet they haven't really expressed that publicly. So I think it's a great notion for us to work on and try and coordinate, but it's difficult for me to kind of I don't think we know enough about where they're at to build it into here, other than maybe it's within our master plan or plans for individual sites. that we might be able to coordinate and kind of have those conversations. But I don't know, that's not really a good answer, but there's a lot of uncertainty.
I have to agree with Steve. I think he raised a good point, Steve. As a matter of fact, if this coincidental, I watched the majority of the town council meeting that occurred just last night. And last night, the town council, the police director brought to the council, and the council approved an enormous amount of on the order of a bid for an enormous amount of road work that's going to take place this particular calendar year. And that's specified which roads are going to be upgraded and improved upon and so forth. And it turns out that the public works director does have an overall plan of what's coming next, not just this year, but subsequent years, with the goal being, knock on wood, that we have all of this done, the rework of all the road system in the town of Paradise by the end of 2026, early 2027, believe it or not. So it just behooves us, if we adopt something like a strategic plan, perhaps this is a good thing for our liaison committee with the town of Paradise, in conjunction with them, to coordinate not only our strategic planning goals and so forth, but their own in towns. And with our mind, I would suggest if we adopt a stance that these dates be soft, they're not hard, because that process of liaison between the two agencies through our committee and our staffs, we may discover significant changes are needed, for purposes of timing and the best effect for the public good in terms of public expenditures and disruptions, that type of thing. So
the town does have a list of what roads are supposed to be completed in what year. What is not included on there is the order that the roads are going to be resurfaced. It just says what the list is like. I know Bennett Road is 2024, but it doesn't say when in 2024. And in regards to the sewer, I did listen to a town staff presentation at Rotary, and someone specifically asked, so you're going to repave the roads and then you're going to dig up for sewer and repave them again? And she said yes, because of the way the grant monies fall. So I don't know if that changed. That was a couple of weeks ago.
No, that hasn't changed. Also, last night, the town council meeting was passed a significant directive for what's called a right-of-way acquisition plan for the sewer line that will run from the sewer out of the community, all the way it's going to Nevada, Florida, and Chico, and so forth. They opted for that too, so that's well in place. But there will be some disruptions, but we already know where the main trunk lines are going to be. It's mostly the main arterials,
right?
But my point still stands. I think we need to, we got to participate through the liaison efforts with the town and vice versa. It's very significant.
I agree.
Kristen DeHart and I were at the state of business for the town, state of
the affairs. Yeah,
state of the
town.
Yeah. And I was really impressed with the public works director offering an app that keeps us up to date on the timing and the schedule of those, which the more people we can tell about that app, I think the more available those timelines will be for all of us. So,
what's the app?
It's literally called Paradise Works. Yeah, Paradise Works. Thank you.
I did have one question on the strategic plan draft, and that is on page 53 in regards to the district master management plan update. When was the last time? What's the date of the current master plan? Isn't it like in the teens?
2016, I believe.
Yeah, 20.
Extended
update. 2010 is the original, but the update was 2016.
Right. Extended plan.
I'm sorry, that was the date that was completed for the extension, but it extended to 20.
I think it's due to expire this year.
2024. But it was last touched. It was last published 2016.
That's correct.
Okay. It seems, I don't know, like, Al, I don't know where the word management came from, and I guess it's neither here nor there. It's just a word. It's still a master plan document for the district, correct?
Yeah, and we could strike that from there. I'm not sure how that got in there, other than we do have management plans for units that we wanted to do. So I think that maybe just carried over from that, so we can do that. Something else I wanted to point out that will be fundamentally different about this plan is we wanted to do coupled with it isn't just most master plans are looking forward. What are the new shiny things that we have? And so you see in the description here has an inventory and an evaluation of our existing facilities, and then kind of laying out a little bit of a cost schedule. So I think we mentioned this actually a few meetings ago, where we have new AC units now in this building, but they have a certain lifespan, and you can build that in if you have some thought to it. And we certainly have some very old facilities that it would be very helpful to have an evaluation and how long those might linger on versus they need to be addressed now. So that's one of the things addressed on there. The other thing our master plan does a lot of times from a municipality or county standpoint, master plan is you're pulling out maps when you're talking about something. Typically for a district, the master plan is talking about rec programs as well, and direction and things like that. So, yeah, but we could easily strike out where it says management plan, because that wasn't on the last one.
Well, my question is in regards to it being 4 more years out.
I will ask the board historian, how long did it take for that 2010 update prior to that date?
Well, let's back up. When we did the extension in 2016, didn't take hardly anything that very long, because we didn't have to start from scratch. I'm sorry, when we did the extension in 2016, we didn't have to start from scratch. We basically just said, let's extend it, because a lot of things haven't changed.
It's a 2010 one.
Well, I can't remember that. You're asking me to remember something that's 15 years ago. It wasn't that complex either. The district was a lot smaller then. This is all before campfire. Things have changed dramatically post campfire on a number of fronts. And yeah, it will take a long time to grasp something, but I think in the interim, we should at least extend the current master plan, at least for the duration of time this needs to be completed.
So I would say a couple of things on this. One is I appreciate the comment made earlier about soft dates on here.
Yeah, absolutely.
We should have a statement in here that says that, because this is unlike, well, you talked about the process for the town, for example. They didn't say by July 1st, 2020, whatever, to do the work. It was kind of a sequence of milestones. We're putting this out here. There's no penalty for getting work done early. So, just because the date happens here, and we happen to start the contract. We have plans, for example, in our next budget cycle to have funding devoted to this effort. Will it get started then? I hope so. But, it may take some time to get that contract up, do the inventory of all facilities, do some public input. It's not a cut and paste from the last document, because our demographics are vastly different than what it was in 2010, when they can just look back at the 2000 census data and have a pretty good understanding of what directions the district might be going. So I think it's a fundamentally different effort than what was done before. We could tinker with the date, but I think the idea is that, this is a big deal. It's going to take some time. And if we get it done early, yay.
Thank you. I think you should change the aquatic park date, replace the playground structure though earlier, and put a stamp on it. Don't make it flexible. That helps explain. Thank you.
Well, I suggest that we might want to call them soft dates. If we're going to revisit this by the end of this calendar year, we'll have a lot more knowledge by that, relative to progress, if any, that type of thing. I would just widely suggest that any one of those dates in this document just be shaved back to be over and give us time, see what we can strengthen it accordingly. I don't know how the rest of you feel. I comfortable with 2020, 2021, and that type of thing. It's just, of course, we're not married to those dates, like you said. But
Yeah, and here's something too. So here's what other organizations would do. Anything that's not within the 3 years, it's off the plan. It's not in here. So that's how a lot of strategic plans are be. It's just outside their planning window. We're trying to put things in here to capture them. Over the next few months, we are embarking on a number of new things, or restarting again anyway. We're doing a RFP process for a number of projects. We'll have a better understanding of how the consultants may respond to those dates. We had one out right now, Jordan Hill Road, where quite a few of them thought that our deadlines were too short and had asked for an extension. So that's something on the front end that we can have a date. And I think we're going to get some understanding of this. We'll have a better understanding at the end of the year, can mess around with this. If you put all of these on the spreadsheet that I'll share with Mary later on, but they are very, it's ambitious. There's a long list. And so at some point, what we may look at the next round is adding low, medium, high priorities, because some of these things, they all feel important. They all have some urgency. And yet when you put it on the calendar, what are you giving up to push something to the top? So I think there could be a little bit more rational discussion at the end of the year when we have a chance to look at some of these and hopefully check off some of them and see where we are.
Aside from all the dates, I really like the first part of the first 6 or 7 pages, 8 pages, before it goes into all the projects and dates. But I like it seems to give an overall picture of where the staff wants the district to go and how they're going to get there. So I think it's cool. I like it. And I do like the changes in the foundational statements, the vision and mission statement. They were tweaked just a little bit, and I like the way they read.
Just maybe a suggestion on the heading on section 3, implementation action plan objectives, just maybe a subtext, dates subject to change. I'd say I was starting to say earlier, but I'll say change based on circumstances and opportunities. Right at the top of the implementation, item 3, page 50.
Steve Central in that paragraph, if you get the commentary in that paragraph that talks about items listed should receive prioritization low, medium, high, and assigned to a department staff member. We don't have departments. Maybe reference the entire document where it says department, change it to something, Dan, that's more reality, or leave it out, one or the other. I don't know how the board feels, but
less words, the better.
Do we have any public comment?
Yes, Chair Anderson, you do. So there's a number of eyeballs that this has been seen by. I would say it's probably not enough. That this began with a private retreat in 2019 at a location outside of the district where none of us could even hope to overhear. And it's sort of been in the can for quite a while. So apparently this was discussed at the Finance Committee meeting, but it was not included with the agenda online. I didn't realize that it might have been available then. I would have been attending that meeting weeks ago. So there really wasn't enough time to go over everything that is in the document, and everything that has been left out of the document. This is really in contrast to the town's master transportation plan, or the town's long-term recovery plan, or the county's general plan, or the county's upper-age community plan. I really feel like, Mary said this is where staff wants the district to go, but I think we need to remind everybody that it's the voters who should be determining where the district is going to go. This is very much a document talking about what the district wants to provide rather than the services that the residents are seeking from the district. I do like that the word foothill was added to the communities we serve, but there's a lot of contrast between making the district a destination for recreators who live outside the district relative to the needs of the community, especially the portions of the district which are underserved, as was discussed earlier. So I would like to see some of the priorities change, and there's really not time to go over everything, but talking about like the park acquisitions, I think that the Toyon Labs study sort of emphasizes that acquiring, we had done that in 2019, acquiring potential parklands or open space for the purposes of wildfire risk reduction is not likely to be cost effective. And there really is still a need for public parkland in the portions of the district that were not affected by the campfire. As much as the district manager would like to say that the district boundaries more or less overlap the campfire perimeter, there's still 7,000 of us that live above the campfire perimeter. We have more public parklands. And it would be nice to see something like what was discussed back in 2006 or so, with the PRPD that's behind Cedarwood School, or any of those areas that are still the sort of beautiful mixed conifer forest that the entire district used to represent. So it's hard to go over all of these details. I would like to say that the district might wish to de-emphasize properties like Oak Creek, which is basically 30% shadeless slope down to the creek, that I would like to see district dollars be spent in other areas that are going to provide a better recreational opportunity. I think it's going to be difficult to attract people there unless like it snows at that elevation and you can toboggan down that slope. There's probably better places to put a trail than zigzagging down a 30% shadeless grade. So it would be nice if, and again, this is one of the top priorities, is the sort of like community interaction or community engagement, I suppose are the words there. It would be nice to see more of that. So I don't have a problem with the priorities as stated. I just don't know that they have been implemented. So the district would be using those words in a different way than I would understand them. And I would also say that regarding the inventory of district assets, as was brought up at the last meeting, I believe that's a very important priority. And it's not something that's going to be burden on staff so much that you're going to have to hire an outside contractor to do that inventory and determine what the lifespan of those assets is. And I think that's very important to do prior to 2028. And again, it's great if that happens sooner, but I would like to see the district prioritize that to understand, here's, this is the expense that's going to come up at the pool rather than have it come up spontaneously and cost the district $1 million. So it's in a twice L, both with regards to the district management plan in 2020 and then specifically writing the inventory all at a different date in 2028. So I would be happy to give further input in some sort of workshop, or if there's some kind of community engagement meeting, say, these are the priorities that staff has identified. And then how about the people who actually use the facilities in the district, and what would we like to see? So I don't know if you're interested in the meeting, but I think that before finalizing this and writing it all in stone, you should hear more from your constituents.
Thank you, Mr. Stonebreaker.
Well, one thing I was going to point out is, the other entities that Mr. Stonebreaker mentioned, they don't really publish their strategic plan. You don't see that. But what you do have, and we will have a very public process with our master plan and some of these other things that are definitely oriented around a public process and public input on it. This is kind of our work plan to get things going. So, some of those entities, county, town, may have some internal memos, prioritization, all of that they talk about. That's why they're moving forward with the transportation plan. They haven't identified that they're moving forward with the transportation plan as part of a master strategy. It may show up on the district, their recovery plan and some other things. this is just kind of laying out a blueprint for how we're going to address things, how we're going to get more public input in the future.
Well, I'm aware from one of the meetings that the town safety, what's it called, town safety plan or something like that, and their master plan drafts have been reviewed by some board and some staff too. So
I was one board member having with, I'm just going to talk like I'm a historian. I'm not, doesn't mean I'm knowledgeable, but this district has never had a strategic plan ever, as far as I know. I think it's long overdue. That's fine, but I have no problem with transparency. There's nothing wrong, even though other agencies don't share their strategic plans before they adopt them. I have no problem with us just putting this on our website and maybe not adopting this until we get some input from the public relative to this document to ponder and in conjunction with everything else we've received from staff and standing committees and so forth. I don't know how the rest of you feel, but I have no problem with that. It's not like we can't adopt this at a later date.
I was just going to say a suggestion that if we do delay it, then we'll kick back the review process to the following year. That'd be my only concern about it, because we'd be looking at likely adopted June or July. That's not that much time to kind of review it and kind of reset it. So just want to bring that up.
I was going to add that if we do put this out for, public review, which I think is very reasonable. I think we explain it make it clear that this is not a master plan. This is a fuzzy fogged window roadmap of where we probably want to go somewhere in the future, and not necessarily in this order or these dates. Just stress the fact that it's our general dream, or pick better words, but stress that this is not a master plan. It's a strategic plan. So there's no misunderstanding.
Some suggestion, perhaps what we want post and solicit for public input, have no dates in there, just the list of all these things. And ask the public that takes the time and the effort to review them to prioritize them, assign high, medium, and low priority, that type of thing. And when we get that type of input, we can collectively look at that as well before locking in dates in a document that's called a strategic plan.
I have some concern about that. So I think there's a difference between having the public make comments on priorities and assigning dates. Because there's staff capacity, there's funding realizations, and we would instantly be at odds, I think, without having some sort of staffing consideration on it. If we are going to have a public process, and I think that's fine, then I would suggest that there's perhaps a message from the board that is associated with that. I would be reluctant to devote more staff time to Xing out all the dates on here and then basically start from scratch and still keeping with an evaluation at the end of 2024. We're talking about basically a 2025 document then, I think, at that point.
Rather than just keep the dates, but in the description of what this is, saying, like we were just discussing tonight, these dates are not set in stone. And let us know your thoughts and leave it at that. So there's no effort in redrafting this. You can send it out as is, but just with a general description of what it is and what we are requesting from the public.
If we either need to put it out like this is what we adopted, or if we're allowing public input, really can't, we have to leave and change it.
So I think that here's something on that, because I think there is a chance to take, the government does this all the time, have a document that is their best shot at a problem or solution, getting comments and input, and then addressing them either within the document or maybe we are going to have, if there are comments, then I would suggest that maybe there's board members that can help address those comments. We are maxed out on staff time. So to introduce new process or to table this till 2025, maybe that's what we need to do to do that. But I was hoping that we would have this because a number of these things are previous direction from the board already. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity here for us to take a look at it at certainly get that public input and get the board to comment on it. If they want to table it, fine. But I think that we feel like the clock is ticking somewhat on that, but we can address the comments. I guess to get to that point, I am concerned that instead of us doing things, we're going to be doing things related to a new public process that we have limited staff time.
Can I make a recommendation that all your points are well taken, Mr. Stonebreaker? I appreciate them all. My suggestion is that we adopt this tonight, post it on and get it up on the website and make it available. Tell people that it's out there. And we'll go ahead and review again at the end of the year, but we will review with any comments that are brought to us by the public.
To me, that's an agreeable solution because we can take those, fold them into our next set of recommendations for that. And I think that it's not that far off. We're talking about basically, right, if we want to slap interim strategic plan on here, it's not that long. We're talking about basically adopting it in mid-April here. And then by the time we get to end of December, we're starting to compile those documents or those comments, right, and then creating the next document.
And I agree, a lot of these are based on, most everything in this document is based on things that have already been approved or given direction to by the board. So I would say let's adopt it because we've already, it was a long time ago that we started this process. So I say, let's call this a complete for now. And as you indicated, votes are fluid. They always are due to all kinds of circumstances, foreseen or unforeseen. And just let the public know that the strategic plan is on the website. Comments welcome, and you put them in an envelope until we review at the end of the year.
If I may make your suggestion, but I'd like to augment it a little bit that we do about this and we have it put out on the website and everything that we basically tell the public we've adopted this, the idea, like you suggested, that it'll be revisited and any comments received will be entertained at the end of the calendar as we try to improve upon the adopted document. Also, as part of that same message, tell us, public, do you like the idea of a strategic plan for this district? Some people don't even know what that is, but some people will comment on that.
So I would imagine you would get 10 different comments on what a strategic plan might mean. So, I mean, I've looked up strategic plans and looked at many definitions of a strategic plan. And I have to agree with staff that the strategic plans are basically an in-house document for here's where we are, here's what we've talked about we need to get done, when are we going to get it done? So
I agree with Dan that this is a management tool. I posting it online, that's fine, and getting input is always great. But this is in-house stuff. Getting public comments, great, but this is your managing style is this. The master plan, that needs to have full public input for sure. Can you put what you said into a motion?
My suggestion, turn it into a motion. All right, let me go. See if I can. All right, I make a motion that we approve this strategic plan document and just, follow the suggestion by staff that we review it at the end of 2024, adjust where needed, and in the meantime, post it on the district website, letting the public know it's there, maybe with a note of here it is, here dates are fluid. If you are inclined to make any comments, email this address and we can include those in the review at the end of 2024.
Some clarification of your intended motion. When it goes on the website, kind of emphasize this is the board's plan. It's a strategy that the board and the staff have come up with post campfire, that type of thing.
The board has adopted it.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So district's plan, in other words.
Yeah, let me ask a question, because there is a fair amount of discussion at the beginning that talks about the genesis of the plan and
yes,
how board and staff, likely to me, it seems like that should either be incorporated there. It can't really be on the link on there. I could see us having a introduction or maybe a news release that kind of style that kind of lays out what it is. And I think kind of giving more details, like, hey, this is going to be reevaluated at the end of the year. Public comment will influence that, but this kind of lays out our game plan for it.
Mhm.
I think that's worthwhile. It's hard to, I'm wondering where that might show up, your suggestion, where the best place for it would be. Okay, so there's a language on there that, because I think we can incorporate that maybe just simply with the action tonight, utilizing kind of the minutes on this date, board adopted this plan.
Oh, I see.
That was a very large motion, so I'm wondering if I can make a comment on, so what I wrote down is approve the document and review at the end of 2024 and adjust as needed with public input. Is that an acceptable thing to write down? I can't put all, that was, no offense. That's just too wordy of a motion. A little bit. So I'm just trying to dilute it a little bit. And I wanted to make sure that was what I captured was an acceptable.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I would hate to see this extended. This has been a long journey.
Can we get a second? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Director Alma Green. Director Mary Belfay.
Aye.
Secretary Steve Roderick.
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Jen Goodland. Chairperson Robert Anderson.
Aye.
Motion carries with 5 ayes.
And that brings us to district report.
So one of the items, and actually we'll start off with it attached on the district report. And let me get the right page here. On page 83 is the start of a report of the 2023 recreation program evaluation. And I think I'd like to start with that with just a little bit of background and then have our staff discuss some of the items there. This has been in the works for quite a while, but I've been wanting us to do an evaluation of our rec programs in a systematic fashion so that we look at it and take a look at how our rec programs relate to each other. I think historically the district has had a rec review report that comes out that focused on how our cost recovery was on our programs and so forth. I wanted something that was a little bit different in that we're a multiple bottom line organization and revenue is important, but also providing services and then kind of stretching our dollars and providing some community needs that might need to be addressed. And so to me, handling the recreation program or department or division, whatever you want to call it, our recreation program as a unit and see if there's certain things that we want to do, because you can get really trapped, I think, oftentimes talking about, for example, the ice rink. We're doing the ice rink, but that comes at some opportunity costs of something else. And we just said earlier this year, but I thought it's really nice to have kind of that bigger picture of how our programs are doing, and give our staff a chance to sort of think about things, strategic directions, tools they might need, and directions we may need to go in the future. So kind of make it a little bit more formal. We have been very responsive to public desires. For example, last year, there was a lot of comments, demand for camps. And so that's something that we've really had a big increase and uptick over this last year. There have been opportunities that have arisen that we probably would not have been able to foresee. So some of the grant programs through our partners that were able to bring programs, another new program for us that we didn't envision 3 years ago or in 2019 was the Nature and Forest Therapy Guides. And now we're kind of the home to a guide program that's very well used and hopefully continues to thrive in the future. But I think it's really important for us to look at this. And I want to have Jeff and I don't know if you guys decided who's going to talk first, or you're going to do it as a team. So this may be entertaining.
I wish we could do this earlier in the meeting where we haven't been sitting for 2 hours. Anyhow,
well, you guys are recreation. You can have us do jumping jacks or calisthenics or
today. So yeah, I'd just like to start with I'd like to apologize a little bit just because not only Scott and I worked on this, but the volunteer coordinator, and we got numbers from Catherine, and there was other input too. And it was a document that we were all working on kind of on the cloud and putting things in, and then somebody else would put things in. So I guess the reason it's a little bit, I kind of thought we were going to have a couple more days to look it over before it got put in. So I apologize. There's a couple highlight sections towards the end of it that weren't supposed to be there. And at least one incomplete sentence or so in the back. So we were hoping to get to look at this a little longer. That being said, it is an all-encompassing recreation report. I can't really remember ever doing one of these, having worked here so long. I know we've done the swim pool report that's in depth on that facility and other facility reports over the years, but I don't remember doing one on just recreation. You guys can see the income and expense, anytime you want at the end of the year, but we're kind of going over what made it up. And Dan, I don't know if you mentioned the cost recovery portion when you introed it, but
just in passing.
That was kind of interesting to me. If you look on the front page, number 2 there, the recreation revenue, and this is fiscal year 22-23. It basically tells you it was what it was, and then our net loss, that was a 56.5% cost recovery, which was the ratio of what it cost compared to the income we took in. And that doesn't sound that great, but we have down that the average is like from 10 to 40 for most districts.
Turn on your mic. What are the information sources of these other recreational programs between 10 to 40%? It would have been helpful if you cited your source of information.
Yeah, I could address that. So some of it is looking at kind of industry standards. So there have been some documents that will talk about that, and some forums, for example. Some of these numbers there was a San Mateo, or it was a Bay Area, I won't say where, Bay Area had some cost recovery policies that they listed out, and kind of described some of that efforts there. We could provide citations on it, but that's not untypical. A lot of programs are shooting for 30%, for example. It's a lot of the documents, when you look at their cost recovery policies, will go through the equity part of it. To get 100% cost recovery means that you're squeezing out a fair number of your residents. I'll use a pool, for example. Our pool is very expensive.
Yes, well.
So if we costed it out for a per user day experience, it's probably upwards of $25 a day, right? Something like that. Or charging our programs, our teams, a lot more than what it costs us. So that 100% cost recovery for rec districts mean that you're looking at that bottom line and not necessarily the services that you provide. So they'll tend to adopt a 10 to 40% on there.
I did look that up earlier because I think, Dan, you might have put that in, and it the National Recreation and Park Association had
figures really close to that for the national average for cost recovery.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys are going to have some questions. We kind of each did sections on this. I obviously did the aquatics and have some different goals and milestones. I don't know how in depth you guys want to get. We've had an increase in participation and income at both the Paradise and Concal pools. Unfortunately, we've had increase in expenses too. You guys saw the swim pool report a few months ago now. One thing to note is under participation, we mentioned that the swim team numbers are included in the participation numbers, as are all the people that did rec swim, aqua aerobics, swim lessons. But that number would actually be a lot higher if we counted, and we're talking about how we're going to do this next time around. We counted the actual number of, so say there was 30 kids that did swim team. Well, they all used the pool 80 times each. So that'd be a lot higher number. Same with the swim lessons. Say we had 100 kids in swim lessons. Each of those kids did 8 swim lessons.
I'll point out something else that we wanted. The reason why we felt some urgency getting this out. One is we're using this on a calendar year basis. So this information is dated. The other thing is this is our first time doing this. You see it's raw, right? There's a lot of errors, and you see our notes that we have to each other in there. But we wanted to get some input from the board on here is this a useful set of information? Do you have suggestions on it? We can clean up some of it and put it in the next district report. But I think that some of the information has been very valid important for us. So Jeff mentioned, for example, some of our counting. So I think it's far more valuable. We had a long discussion on this. The data that we get from Sportsman is like how many, if a person signs up for a class, it shows up as one participant for that class rather than it's a 12-week class and they're coming in, an hour a week, 2 times or 2 hours every week. So we talked about having maybe user days or experience days or hours on it. So that may be a better basis for us to compare people or across programs. A lot of places, as far as like counts of park users, they'll use user days or that type of metric. And so I think something like that's important. Sorry, go ahead, Jeff and Scott.
Camps, do you want to go on that, Scott? Should we just go through it, or should I do?
I'll jump to, I'd like to reiterate what Dan just said real quickly.
Okay.
One of the challenges, and I think that Al, you were kind of leaning towards this, is we did take a lot of information from a lot of places, and we know that information will only get stronger as we take this from a massive lift towards the end of last year and displacing a lot of other work that we had to the beginning of this year. We're planning on building this out so that it becomes part of our system throughout the year. So we're doing quarterly aggregated reports so that by the end of the year, we have all the information at the end of the calendar year so we can start making decisions for the next calendar year in line with that idea that we're trying to back everything up one quarter so that we're planning, not reacting. One of the metrics that Dan just mentioned that I hope that we can all see the value of an experience hour metric in evaluating our programs and the cost offsetting, because as Dan just mentioned, for example, the grant program, the Elements grant program, that's 100% cost reimbursable. And we keep a little on top of that. That provided 1,725 experience hours for the year. Tiny Tots provides exponentially more, but it has a little bit more of a price tag to it. So when we sit to evaluate these, incorporating the multiple bottom lines and genuinely focusing on increasing that cost recovery number, we're evaluating it through the experience hours. Key point: person arrives here and skates on whatever surface they skate on for 20 minutes, pays us $10, $15 and leaves. That has a completely different aggregated experience time up against that cost than Tiny Tots. Whereas it provided exponentially more experience hours for our clients at a completely different rate. So as we dig into aggregating these numbers throughout the year, it will provide us a dashboard of information that gives us real-time information versus consistently looking back at what we did in order to throw a dart at what might happen in the future. So that's the value that I learned from this. Basically, I kind of became a supervisor this year through this report. It was very valuable. Is that what I wanted to say?
I think so.
I think so. Yeah.
And like Scott said, a lot of this is digging out numbers for us, and it's, you know, you're in the middle of programming and planning events and starting to prep for the pool and all these other things, and doing something like this, it was a lot of work. A lot of it is digging out the numbers. So like Scott said, if we could get a system to where we're doing that quarterly or more often, then we could combine that for an end of the year number and make it a lot easier.
Want to ask? Look in questions. They look like they want to ask questions. Robert, you look like you want to ask questions.
Nope, great job.
Thanks.
I'll just make a note that you had asked him if the purpose of this sharing it with the board is if you thought the board thought it might be a worthy document. I turned that around to say, if you guys think this is a worthy in-house document that provides you good information that you need to know on evaluating all the programs, we can't tell you if it is or isn't, but I like the information.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to the value of it, we now have a common language and a common document to look at through the lenses of the multiple bottom lines. And that some of the language that came out of that is this new metric. It's the first time we've been able to put that into language with a numerical valuation.
You know, I'm sorry. I was just going to mention, I think one of the things for us that this is something we're going to do going forward. It may take a little bit different form, but I think that the point is that it gives us a chance to kind of like, there's not really much time in the year for us to kind of like take a breath, but this, if we're disciplined and we kind of go through this exercise, we're able to look at it. And then I think importantly, look at like, how do we allocate resources between things that we're doing? Because I think it's real easy to get caught up on like, how do we improve this one thing? And then that sometimes is at the cost of improving something else or diverting resources. And so I think it gives us a much more unified look at our rec programming and directions we want to go. Sorry, Steve.
I think as this tool becomes more refined and you gets better and better, it's going to be a net time savings on all staff, because they know where the dollars are at, who's efficient, or what program is efficient, what a program isn't as efficient based on your weighted average of, bodies getting, or individuals getting benefit from a recreation program. And if again, it's not just all bottom line, like you were saying, it's how we all benefit. And you'll get some items that you'll probably get some programs that go, wow, we could probably put more in this and expand it. And conversely, maybe we should pull back because it's not affecting a lot of people. So again, I think it's going to be a net time saver for everybody.
Thank you.
I'm going to compliment the team effort that was done. It's not just Jeff and Scott that from several other staff as well. I love this report, quite frankly. I think it's a great step, not only for staff, but us as board members, because it gives us a bigger picture rather than individual, for lack of better words, gives us a bigger picture of all the recreational activities, evaluating in one document. It gives us, as a board member, insight as we try to think ahead as each fiscal year comes about budgetarily and other ways too. So I want to thank you all tremendously for this format. I realize this is the first time this has ever been done in all the years I've been with the district, and I think it's the right step, quite frankly. I don't know how the other board members feel. So kudos to all of you, and it will be more refined as you keep using it, I'm sure. And we'll be the recipients of it too. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Director McGrady. I think one thing that's might be parallel to this is our swim reports. You know, I think we're in the past we're a lot more narrative, and now we have kind of a little bit more streamlined view that gives numbers. And I think it's been a little bit easier for Jeff to put those together. And I think it's just probably on that path. It's very early, and I would view this year as kind of a draft or baseline, and view next year's as sort of improvements. But you know, any and all those comments, I mean, that it's worthwhile is important for us to know, you know, how we need to write it for a broader audience than just maybe internally. So thanks.
I'm sorry, that already happened to a certain extent. I mean, when I first took a stab at doing this, it was written in more paragraph form, and Dan was like, no, maybe make it down to bullets and, you know, put your recommendations in shorter form. So I can see it getting even more concise.
Speaking of recommendations, kudos again to all of you. Your outstanding commentary about various subjects. You know, on the recommendations, streamline events, staffing, program evaluation, rec report evaluations, market analysis, et cetera. I am kind of curious, there was 2 bullets that were also included, but there's no commentary, revenue and participation. Is that because your deadline was moved 2 days earlier than you guys and you just couldn't get it to us?
Well, let me tell you that. One of the things that came out of this exercise, and I think that calling it an exercise is adequate, right? Is we closed the door, we put this thing away, and we're like, all right, Jeff, what was like, whoa. And for me, one of the things that we talked about was the importance of cadence throughout the year in order to deliver this well. And that cadence and the reporting is a great litmus for how well staff workload is. Like the numbers on this feed into narratives that then help us communicate amongst ourselves, to yourselves, and then to the public. I mean, that's one of the things that all of this touches the public in experience hours and being fiscal agents, you know, that are aligned with district priorities. And what it also does is it's an honest look. Like, this is the mirror, and we hope to stand like, you know, as the years go on, like, yeah, these are things that we clearly need to take a good look at. But until we name them, we can't take a look at it. So we've done that.
And I think with those 2 recommendations, it was the type of thing, like I said, where Scott and I didn't talk enough right at the end. We thought we had another day, and before we knew it, it was dropped into the board packet. That was probably it. I'm not.
Deadlines. Deadlines are real.
Yeah. And so that's, even that here is part of the exercise, right? We'd been communicating that I start field trips, which is all day Tuesdays and Thursdays in April. So we wanted to get it in before April, because now the time that I used to have is now service. Yeah. And then same with Jeff. I mean, Gold Nugget Craft Fair or something, Kids Fishing Day or something. Yeah. So we understand, we knew it was a big lift, but we also knew the importance of it. So thank you for the encouragement, Dan.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll give rec staff the opportunity to clean that up and get the next revision in here. But I thought it was important for us to look at it now. So thank you for those comments. Jeff, did you want to stay up here? We were going to do a little bit more focus on rec programs. I know Jeff is, and like Scott alluded to, in the middle of a whole bunch of events coming up. So be good to get a picture of that.
So just scoot right up to programs then. Yeah, as far as the events, we had the Easter egg hunt. I was actually out of town on Saturday, March 30th, but to my understanding, it went really well. It was lightly raining. They made the decision. Well, it must have been before it started. They made the decision to put the eggs outside because we were maybe going to do them inside if it was raining.
We're gonna do it inside, but that would be too much of a hazard with the amount of people that ended up showing up. And then it started pouring about 10 minutes before that field hunt was supposed to start.
So I did hear some comments about people that were waiting out in the rain for the egg hunt to start. But the Easter Bunny was here, taking pictures with the children. We hid 3,000 eggs, and we had the 4-H people here up under the eaves where they're usually out on the grass. So it went well. I think we learned some things. Kristen had some good comments on things we could improve for future Easter egg hunts. The first of 3 fish plants took place on March 27th at the lake, with the next 2 coming up. I actually locked those in. One's going to be April 17th and one April 18th, which is the Wednesday and Thursday leading up to the Kids Fishing Day on the 20th. We've been doing getting a lot of sponsorships for that, rounding up gear, getting things ready, having meeting with volunteers and staff on it. So it's coming up in a week and a half. Gold Nugget Craft Fair is the following weekend. That's a 2-day event. And I wrote just over 62 vendors registered. There's actually 69 now. And last year there was a total of 75 vendors. So we're getting close to last year's numbers with still a couple weeks to go. Tiny Tots. There's some pictures in here too. You guys see them. Tiny Tots, there's 29 kids in the Tiny Tot program. Now that takes place Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday here at the rec center. The Easter Bunny made a visit to Tiny Tots. I highlighted youth judo. There's lots of different programs like you guys saw in the report, but trying to highlight a couple of the ones that are doing well and I'm really proud of. The youth judo, some of you might see when you get here, they're usually in this room on Wednesday nights. They have strong numbers with 33 children signed up here at the Terry Ash Center and another 27 using the Spring Valley School location. And the instructor is actually going to be hosting a judo tournament over in the Concal School Gymnasium that some of us visited a while back. So that's already going to get used. That's not really going to be a PRPD program. He's doing that through his judo organization. So I was kind of asking them if they were charging or not, and he wasn't sure yet for that. Aquatics recruitment. That's happening right now. We're getting some new applications coming in. Out of last year, I thought we were going to have a really strong number of staff coming back, but there's only 4. So there are 4 good ones. There are people that worked last year that did a good job, and we're already hiring. We've already gotten some other good applications in. So recruiting for that. I don't know enough about the elements, Scott. I don't know if. Great. Okay. You guys have any questions on that stuff?
Is the basketball shoot in the spring or fall? The
hoop shoot?
The hoop shoot, yeah.
That's in the winter typically.
Winter, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right. Thanks.
I'm sure if there's questions come up, we'll bring you back up. So just a couple of things. We have every 18 months, Capri does an inspection. They do it 18 months because they want to see kind of a different season. So we just completed that. There was a couple of items, including training, that we need resolved. But we did get an excellent category. They granted us an excellent category. So that actually means a big difference to us on our insurance rates. So those inspections, our staff does a really diligent job on trying to address those issues before they even show up. They give us a pretty extensive checklist. And I've been impressed at how our staff has provided the documentation prior to that. The meetings have gone smooth. They go and inspect it with our rec staff and park staff, a couple of sites that they've picked. And they often give us good suggestions on anything from frequency of training to areas that we might improve and so forth. So it's been very valuable for us. And I think with that, we should be eligible for an award. For those of you that are going to the Capri conference, hopefully we'll be in that on the stage to receive that award. Another big item I know board members have been very keenly watching related to our audit. And that looks like they're going to release a draft to us on the audit that will go before our finance committee at our next meeting, which is tomorrow. We do have attached the budget, draft budget on here. Mark had included Oh, and CIP. So there's some information there starting in the back of the packet there on our draft budget. That has been discussed initially, preliminary budget at our finance committee. It'll come back to our finance committee for some more discussion and to our board on our calendar that we identified early in the year. So look for that coming up here. Pool is underway. We have, board members may recall, quite a few equipment failures over the past couple of years on some of the equipment, and that's been replaced. We are likely to look at resurfacing the pool. It may be a Band-Aid approach to it, but I guess the last Band-Aid lasted 10 or 15 years. So some new surfacing on the pool that we're going to get a cost estimate on to initiate that work in the fall. So after the swim season, but we'll keep you posted on what the recommendation is from the consultant. We're pulling in on that. Jeff covered a lot of the programs well. We have a very robust hiking association schedule with our partner Paradise Stronger, and of course those list of camps. Their activity guide is out, and you know, I don't know how our signups are going with it. Any information on that? Slow, good. What do you think? What do you guys say?
Of the average right now and trickling in. We expect a lot with our event planner and marketing coordinator. We have a pretty massive campaign for the summer camps lined up, like really, really big, boosting it and all that. We have 54 seats to fill just for Camp Courage. So they're trickling in, but we asked for more camps and now we got to fill them. So yeah.
Historically, we've received a bunch of signups after the first set of hot days when people realize summer's coming and I got to do something about it. So that seems to be a pattern we observe. Tons of good pictures in here about some repairs and stuff going on different places. And I'd be happy to take any questions you might have. I know there's a fair amount of material here and you may have questions. Which part?
The 0.8 out of equity round 2 applications.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, our staff. I thought that was part of your elements update, Scott, but yeah, we have some additional funding. It looks like it's very promising. The elements program's been small but mighty, and kind of developing a number of things. This is a program where Ann Stevens and Kelly Munson are helping us, and Scott's been running some of the programs with that. That looks like they're still talking to us about the supplemental grant, so that's very exciting news for us. Anything else you want to add to that, Scott? Scott wants to talk numbers, 540,000. 536, he's rounding up. We are kicking off some efforts. We should be shortly. It's not in the report here. We'll have it next month, a little more information. Our California Volunteers grant that you had mentioned, that paperwork's back. So they did pretty quick turnaround for the state. They are going to have a kickoff meeting with us end of this month, next month. Yeah, so there's 3 different kickoff meetings associated with it. One is kind of overall program. One is related to kind of questions and so forth. I forget what the third one is, maybe billing and. Oh, yes. So they're going to talk with us individually. So that's really exciting. We've had some preliminary conversations in house, talked about having a rollout for it. So having a kind of a bigger splash for not only community, but kind of recruiting organizations that may be able to help us provide programs and funding and so forth. So we're kind of sizing that up right now. We'd like to have kind of a kickoff meeting with those groups so that they know what might be required for the grant to participate. What are some of the goals? what they need to have as far as documentation and requests. So we have I think I mentioned before, we have an organizational profile that will list out something about what they do and what they see providing to the community that fits within the grant. And then we're likely to have staff to help them make sure that those certain elements that are engineered with this grant are actually delivered with the program. So we're figuring that all out.
Do you have a way to contact all these organizations, Roger?
Kind of a summary of our list that we have of these organizations. I think certain groups, Paradise Community, or Citizens Alliance.
Well, I was going to
is
say,
a good one.
we could use the Paradise Citizens Alliance email then.
Yeah,
You know, and maybe that might be helpful.
definitely. And I think what we want to have is, it's going to be kind of dispersed widely, and hopefully we'll find organizations. I think there's organizations out there that we don't know that are doing work that fit real well with kind of wildfire preparedness or climate adaptations or how to conserve water and some of these other things that may be part of it. And then connecting neighbors. We had a group not too long ago approach us about efforts they're doing related to gardens. And it doesn't quite fit our program because it's enabling them on private landowner gardens. So it's not a program that we could devote resources to. And yet this grant, if it's to bring neighbors together, you could have on a neighborhood scale where they're helping each other on that. So there may be some adaptations that we're able to do that we can't do today for a variety of reasons, but may set us up and get the word out. So it'd be really important once we have a good description of the program and how people can help us to help distribute that. So that would be great. Any other questions? Thanks, team.
And that brings us to board liaison reports. Mary?
I went to the holiday market grand opening and I was so excited. I took my shopping list with me. No, I didn't get a sandwich, but it's so different in there. It's not anything like it was before. It is wonderful. It's nice that holiday market was there. And then the guy from manager of Grocery Outlet, what's his name? The owner, Wayne. Anyway, he came up there and supported him too. And that was very cool that he came. He says, "Hey, we all got to help each other out and support each other." So it was good. That's it.
Council?
I do not this time.
Okay.
Steve?
Nothing germane to parks from the county, and just my usual foray up to the lake every weekend. It's still full. It's still beautiful. And the goslings will be hatching soon.
Dan?
The Love Paradise Make a Difference Day is next Friday, meeting at Paradise.
On this report, I did attend and participate in the monthly LAFCO meeting, which was on April the 4th. It was the latest agenda I've ever seen in a few years I've been in the commission. That all we do is put in to the budget for the upcoming fiscal year 24-25, and we got kind of a approving that budget. It's now subject to possible final adoption by the LAFCO Commission next month in May. That's pretty much it.
Thank you, Al. And I have nothing. So that brings us to board comment.
I have something to share with the board staff. Recently, out of the council approached me, and we have a liaison committee we participate with. There are two members of our board and two members of the council and our respective staffs. We meet quarterly now. We're trying to. This other council member just indicated to me that there's very little that's reported by his counterparts from the liaison committee to the full council. And he was just wondering if I could just suggest or share a comment. Would it be possible for our rec district to give a presentation to the full town council sometime this calendar towards the end of this fiscal year and at the beginning of the next fiscal year? I don't know. Just kind of give a presentation to the council as a whole with they have a nice audience and it just it'll be on YouTube and all that stuff. It's just a good way. This is just a suggestion. I just thought I'd pass it on. It was a comment.
I just had a question. I see Doug Teeter moved in across the parking lot. Have things changed for that building? Is there a possibility of us getting space? Because I thought.
So I'm coughing because I tried. No, let me share something with you on that. So he's been there actually for a while. So he moved back there. I think it's been a couple of years now. One thing that's mystifying to me is half that building is supposedly claimed by the courts. It used to be the part of the court system. The word that I've received from the county is that they have somehow made a claim that is their property. Even though they're not using it right now, it's unavailable. So it's something that is, I've tried to reach out to courts. Didn't get anywhere with that. I didn't get a response back from them on the inquiry. And the county says it's kind of a dispute that's a low level dispute that's just sort of property sitting there unused. But we did approach them 2019 to see because we were short on space and it would make for interesting programming space if we had ability to reconfigure it. And I got a no or a no response.
Thanks, Tim.
Sure.
Anybody else? Then I am going to adjourn this meeting to May 8th, 2024. Thank you.